Obaa Yaa grew up in a small village on the outskirts of Accra, Ghana. Her mother, Mama Kos, was a hard-working fruit seller who did her best to provide for Obaa Yaa. The absence of a father figure never felt like a void because Mama Kos filled every gap with love and faith. A devout Christian, Mama Kos raised Obaa Yaa with strong moral values and unwavering belief in God. Despite their poverty, their little home was filled with laughter and hope. Mama Kos always reminded Obaa Yaa to trust in God and believe in the goodness of people. However, life was not always kind to them. Mama Kos began to feel weak and was eventually diagnosed with kidney failure. The news came as a shock to Obaa Yaa, who was in junior high school at the time. Despite their faith, the financial burden of a kidney transplant was overwhelming. They prayed tirelessly, and Obaa Yaa sought help from their church and the community, but the money needed was far beyond what they could raise. One fateful morning, as Obaa Yaa prepared to visit her mother in the hospital, she dropped a glass of water. The sound of the shattering glass sent chills down her spine, as if it were an omen. Rushing to the hospital without even changing her clothes, she arrived to find her mother's body covered with a white cloth. Mama Kos had passed away, leaving Obaa Yaa devastated and alone. The loss of her mother plunged Obaa Yaa into a deep depression. For months, she struggled to adapt to life without Mama Kos. Every night, she sat on her bed, staring at the empty spot where her mother used to lay. Their tiny home, once filled with warmth and joy, now felt cold and suffocating. Memories of her mother's smile haunted her, and the weight of their struggle made her feel abandoned by God. After 8 months of battling loneliness and despair, Obaa Yaa decided to leave the village. The pain of staying in the same space where every corner reminded her of her mother was unbearable. With no clear plan, she packed her belongings and moved to Accra, determined to start anew. She knew it would be difficult, but she was desperate for a fresh start and a chance to escape the shadows of her past. The bustling city of Accra was a world unlike anything Obaa Yaa had ever known. The bright lights and constant noise were overwhelming, but they also gave her a glimmer of hope. She believed the city held opportunities for her to rebuild her life. However, the harsh realities of city life soon hit her. With no money, no shelter, and no support, she found herself sleeping on the street. One night, as she lay on a cold pavement, a woman named Cindy approached her. Cindy, a local prostitute, was initially concerned for Obaa Yaa's safety. The area was notorious for its dangers, and Cindy warned her to leave. When Obaa Yaa shared her story, Cindy's heart softened. She offered to take Obaa Yaa home, promising her a safe place to stay. Cindy provided Obaa Yaa with a roof over her head, food to eat, and clothes to wear. For over a year, Cindy cared for her as if she were her own sister. During this time, Obaa Yaa learned about Cindy's lifestyle and the harsh realities of survival in the city. Cindy tried to shield her from the dangers of her profession, but Obaa Yaa was determined to contribute financially and take control of her own destiny. Eventually, Obaa Yaa asked Cindy to let her join the business. Cindy hesitated, knowing the risk and moral compromises involved, but Obaa Yaa was resolute. She believed that money was the key to freedom and happiness, and she was willing to do whatever it took to secure her future. Obaa Yaa's beauty quickly set her apart. Her chocolate complexion, captivating smile, and natural charm made her a favorite among clients. She soon rose to prominence, attracting wealthy men from all over the city. Unlike Cindy, who worked the streets, Obaa Yaa attended high-profile events, rubbing shoulders with the elite of the society. She told herself that this was just a means to an end, a way to escape the poverty that had stolen her mother from her. Through her connections, Obaa Yaa began to attend exclusive parties and events hosted by the city's most influential figures. At one such event, a lavish birthday party of oil magnate Alhaji Mustafa, she met Frimpong, a mysterious and wealthy businessman. Frimpong's aura exuded power and success, and Obaa Yaa was immediately drawn to him. He introduced himself as a business partner of Alhaji Mustafa and a resident of the United States. After the party, Frimpong invited Obaa Yaa to his luxurious hotel room. She was awestruck by the opulence and the five-star suite. The evening seemed magical, and Frimpong's charm made her feel special. As they sat on a couch, he revealed his unique desires. He offered Obaa Yaa $100,000 to fulfill an unusual request, to engage in an intimate act with his dog while he watched. At first, Obaa Yaa was horrified and refused. But when Frimpong opened a briefcase filled with crisp dollar bills, her resolve wavered. Her desire for wealth and haunted by memories of her mother's suffering, Obaa Yaa reluctantly agreed to Frimpong's demand. She convinced herself that this was a necessary sacrifice for a better future. However, the act left her feeling degraded and empty. Exhausted, she fell asleep, hoping to wake up to a brighter tomorrow. When Obaa Yaa woke up, Frimpong and his dog were gone. The briefcase of money remained, but upon closer inspection, she realized the bills were fake. Panic set in as she understood the depth of the deception. As she left the hotel, she was stopped by an old man who warned her that Frimpong had likely used her for a ritual. His words sent chills down her spine. Obaa Yaa's health began to deteriorate rapidly. She felt weak and fainted frequently. The once vibrant and confident woman was now a shadow of her former self. News of her condition spread, and people whispered about the consequences of her choices. The wealth she had chased so desperately now seemed meaningless. Confined to her bed, Obaa Yaa had plenty of time to reflect on her life. She thought about her mother's faith and the simple joys they once shared. She regretted the choices she had made and wished she could turn back time. But the past was irreversible, and the weight of her actions bore heavily on her. As her condition worsened, Obaa Yaa isolated herself from everyone. She no longer attended parties or sought the company of worthy men. Alone in her apartment, she wrote letters to those she had wronged and prayed for forgiveness. She longed for the peace she once felt in her mother's presence. In her final days, a local pastor visited Obaa Yaa. He offered her words of comfort and prayed with her. Though weak, Obaa Yaa found solace in his words. She confessed her sins and asked for God's mercy. For the first time in years, she felt a sense of peace. Obaa Yaa passed away quietly in her sleep, leaving behind a profound silence that enveloped her once vibrant apartment. When news of her death spread, it stirred a mix of sorrow and reflection among those who had crossed paths with her. Cindy, who had taken her in during her darkest days, wept openly as she recalled the innocent girl she had once been. For Cindy, Obaa Yaa's story was a painful reminder of the city's ruthless grip on those seeking solace and success. In the village where Obaa Yaa was born, her story became a subject of discussion in churches, schools, and market squares. Mama Ako's former church members often spoke of the young girl they had once known, sharing tales of her laughter and determination. They lamented the choices she had made but prayed that her soul had found peace. The local pastor, who had been with her final days, organized a small memorial service. During the service, she recounted her heartfelt confession and her yearning for forgiveness. His words moved the attendees, reminding them of the power of redemption and the fragility of human life. Her life was a warning, but her repentance was a lesson, he said, encouraging everyone to hold steadfast to their values. Obaa Yaa's letter, which she had painstakingly written in her last days, were delivered to those intended recipients. Each letter carried her regrets, apologies, and final words of wisdom. For many, these letters became treasures, offering insight into a woman who had lived, faltered, and sought grace in the end. Over time, Obaa Yaa's story transcended her immediate circle, becoming a cautionary tale for many young women who dreamed of the city's allure. It served as a reminder that integrity and faith should never be sacrificed at the altar of wealth and ambition.